From Del Rio, Texas, home of Lake Amistad, your host, Rob Wade. This guy who dives. This episode of This Guy Who Dives, recorded live Saturday, 12 March 2016, episode 157, and that's just the warm-up. Well, howdy everybody, welcome to another episode of This Guy Who Dives, and I am your host, Rob Wade, and I'm joined by one of our fur kids. Say hi to everybody, Graza. A little camera shy, but absolutely had to be on the chair here. Now, if I can avoid a battle going on behind me, I've already got Vala up here. One of our other, we've got 4 dachshunds. For those who don't follow the show regularly or websites or anything, or not Vala, but Ronan. We have 4 dachshunds and we're not sure what this is that we're fostering. And that's quite a household, let me tell you. We don't have kids, but the fur kids more than make up for that, let me tell you. Between just the craziness of corralling them and the food bills and the cleanup, and, you know, we do probably nearly as much laundry because of the fur kids as people with regular children. Now, you may be cleaning clothes and that kind of thing, but we clean our clothes more frequently because if the dogs have been outside and they decide to run in and say, "Oh, we're glad to see you," and jump right up on you, then you're going to be wearing whatever they had on outside. And of course, lately it's been crazy rainy and stormy here, so it's been nothing but muddy paw prints, not only on us, but on furniture, etc. So we do so much cleanup just because we have the animals, you know, to help protect our couch and our our other furniture. When the weather's like this, we'll break out the towels and put that on everything, because they do, you know, we let them up on the furniture with us, because they are like our kids. So we put the towels down, etc., and so they can get their muddy paw prints on that. But then, of course, that means we're washing a lot more towels and sheets and things like that. So, yeah, they are like our little kids. We treat them better than most people treat their kids. I got to say that. So, and I'll be actually, speaking of fur kids, I'll be sharing some information with you a little bit later. I don't have all the details yet, but I'll be sharing some stuff having to do with animals towards the end of the netcast here. So the title of the episode tonight is, and that's just the warm-up, because we're going to be talking about warming up, but more than what you might think, than just exercises. But so we'll be getting onto that. But first, let's start off with something that we always start off with, which is movie review. I mentioned last episode that we would be striving to catch the movie Risen if it finally made it to Del Rio, which, thankfully, I'm trying to tighten up the focus here because it's all blurry, and that's even with glasses on, trying to crisp that for you guys. Take advantage of the fact I have HD camera here. So anyway, the movie Risen, which was on my movie list at the beginning of the year, that I was looking for this year. And so for those of you who are not familiar with what it's about, allow me to refamiliarize you with the trailer here. Let's go to, here we go.
When the Messiah comes, Rome will be nothing!
Until then. The Nazarene city'd rise again after 3 days. peace and order if it's true.
Will the people believe it?
The weak will.
There will be no other gods.
Kill him.
The tomb is sealed, guarded with your life.
Tyrion, Pilate summons you.
The body has vanished. His tomb is empty.
Where has he gone?
You tell me.
Already they're proclaiming him risen from death.
The Emperor cannot arrive to unrest. We must find a body.
Combed the city for bodies dead in the last week.
Dig them up.
Everyone. His disciples, where are they hiding his corpse?
It was not his followers.
Another body, sir, just revealed.
No.
Who told you the Nazarene was alive?
Mary Magdalene.
You're looking for something you'll never find.
Open your heart and see.
No more lies. What happened to the body?
The ropes, they just exploded.
You should have returned by now. I have seen two things which cannot reconcile. A man dead without question, and that same man alive again.
What frightens you? Being wrong. Wagering eternity on it.
Okay, so we went to see that movie. It was awesome. I gotta say the cinematography was fantastic. The locations were great. It was pretty graphic, I have to say. Definitely not the kind of movie you take your kids to, even though it's depicting kind of in. If you saw The Passion of the Christ, you saw a movie that was as realistic as they could reasonably get to what Jesus experienced going to the cross. And this movie kind of tells the story of his resurrection from the perspective of a Roman centurion, what was the word they used? Anyway, and of course, there's nothing, this is not, other than what it refers to throughout is not in Scripture. It tells what likely was, what likely happened once Pilate just realized, okay, I've got to find out what happened to this Jesus character. And so it's a reasonable expectation of how a manhunt might have gone on, what they might have gone through. And it has a fantastic ending to it. I loved the ending, resulting in a conversion, if you will. So if you happen to be Christian or at least interested in these types of movies, I definitely highly recommend this. I would give this probably a 9, 8.5 or 9. The reason why I don't give it a full up 10 is because it did start off, it was kind of slow in pace in times. The actor playing the centurion, the Roman, did a good job. It's just that I think that they didn't give him a strong enough script or I guess direction of what to do with certain scenes. I kind of felt that there were some missed opportunities to really make this that character more powerful than they actually did. So, but be that as it may, as a believer, I really appreciated the approach to it. I didn't find really much in the way of anything that made me I didn't find anything that really made me go, oh man, that's just really disappointing they did that. Unlike Noah, which it totally blasphemes scripture. I mean, it tells it from a very paganistic, secular mythology kind of approach. The story of Noah. No, other than the names, just not based in scripture at all. But this movie, while doesn't tell a story that is depicted in scripture, it is in the context of the events that are told very clearly in scripture. So I thought they did a great job with it. Well worth your time to go see it if you happen to be a believer. So, all right. So now on to our tech news. Not a lot going on, just more of the confusing world of Windows 10. If you've got a Windows 10 PC and you've been keeping yourself up to date, and you're running it on a PC or tablet or laptop, you should be currently up to build 10586.164. That has a number of fixes. You know, they're trying to enhance some of the some of the Cortana stuff as they go along. They're laying the groundwork for improving some of the universal apps that they're working on. Now, if you are, and of course, Cortana heard me saying that, so on my phone. Now, if you're running a Windows 10 PC or tablet on the Pro version, Windows 10 Pro, which I didn't realize I had loaded that, but that's what I have on our server here and on a laptop that I've got. On a tablet, I've got just the standard home version. We're up to 14279.1000. Last but not least, if you happen to be running a Windows 10 phone, you've got kind of two pathways as well. If you are standard user, you're on to 10586.164 as well. But if you are on an insider and have one of the new hardware phones, the Lumia 650, the 950, or the 950 XL, and you're on the insider program, you're on the Redstone path, which is the Redstone path. If you've not heard of it, is jumping forward to what's going to be happening next year. We've got Redstone 1, which is what we're on. Redstone 2, which has been apparently delayed until 2017 because rumors are there's a whole new slew of hardware, not just phones, but all types of devices based on new processors and that kind of thing. So the Redstone thread, I'm not sure what the term that they're using. I guess thread of operating system is coming spring 2017. But the rumors are now that because let me back up a bit. If you're not in the insider program and not an owner of a new piece of hardware, you've still got you have a Windows Phone. You have a Windows Phone 8.1 device, unless you loaded yourself into the insider program, which gives you preview access to Windows 10 Mobile. So everybody else in the world that's got a stock bought from the factory, bought from the OEM, or bought from the carrier Windows Phone, you're running 8.1. The rumor is this build 10586.164 for the preview folks is the version that's going out to OEMs for manufacture and is the strong candidate for the official release to everybody else of Windows 10 Mobile. So if you've got a Windows 8.1, Windows Phone 8.1 device, and you're not in the insider program, we've not officially Microsoft has not officially released Windows 10 Mobile, but this one apparently is the strongest is apparently the strongest candidate for doing that. So we should be hearing something maybe by the end of the month that okay, Windows 10 Mobile is now available for everybody. Because these latest updates have been an attempt to improve the update process. I mean, a lot of internal behind-the-scenes stuff, but one of the core things is they want to make this upgrade path as seamless as painless as possible for those who are still on Windows Phone 8.1. So anyway, so if you were on the hardware that's using gives you access to the Redstone pathway, you are now, as of this past week, up to 142.83. So that's a big jump over 105.86. So 142.83 is what you should be on at this point. So that's the exciting confusing world of Windows 10. Let's see. Conditions at Lake Amistad still kind of is still cold. Of course, the weather has been warming up a little bit. But, of course, that brings a lot of storms and brings turbidity, etc. So it's just been nasty. But water temps are still mid-50s, about 5-foot visibility, which is a shame. I expect to see the lake will have come up a little bit because of all the rain that we've had in the last week or so. As a matter of fact, speaking of weather, etc., we still have pretty chilly mornings, and when for those who have been following, my car has been in the shop for a long time. We got it back a couple of weeks ago. Having the engine essentially rebuilt because I blew ahead. And but one of the things that they told me that was still broken on it, had nothing to do with the engine, was the heater core. For those who are not aware, the heater core is where fluid from your coolant system passes through it, and it's like a little radiator is basically what it is. And so then your fan in your car, in your dash, blows across that to take that hot fluid, and it heats the air up and it warms your cabin. Well, if the heater core is deteriorating or leaking, then what you have, unfortunately, is fluid that can drip down into the internal compartment of your vehicle, into the cabin, and also because it's under pressure and vaporizes a little bit, it can seep up like a fog from your vent by your window. So what you end up with is what looks like condensation on the inside of your windshield, and what it really is well, it is condensation, but it's condensation of the coolant vapor. So it's got a very greasy, oily feel to it, and when you try to wipe it off, it's not like water. It's not like real condensation, water condensation. It just streaks. It's horrible. You can't just wipe it off. So, and so that means basically you don't want to turn your heater on because it would just blow that everywhere. So I've been driving around in the cool mornings with no heat, and I'm getting ready to go TDY for my job up to a colder area. So I anticipate that I'll need a heater at least for part of the time I'm up at my TDY location. So we put it in the shop. It was in for a couple of days in order to get that done. So I just got it back, and I tell you, it's nice to have the heater again. Now, I say that living in Del Rio, I one of the reasons we're here is because it's so much nicer and warmer generally than everywhere else that we've been. So I'm very, very happy to be here. But even so, I love hot weather. I like it 80 degrees or hotter. Even in my office, I'm still sitting on top of my heater. I have a little space heater I've been keeping going because it's just too cold in my office. So I'm ready for summer. I so am totally ready for summer, so I can get back in the water for more than just 30 minutes and thoroughly enjoy it. So glad to have the vehicle back. Still got some more work to get done on it, but this was just the next step of many to do. So, all right. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to share with you, because people have asked me, new divers in the area have asked me, so what's there to see if you go diving in Amistad? Well, it's not like diving in the Caribbean where you're going to see lots of fancy, very colorful fish and sharks and that kind of thing. It's pretty boring by comparison. That's why for me, of course, any dive for me is fantastic. But I do like to dive the wall dives. Anywhere there's a cliff, sheer cliff, I love to dive those. It's that abyss feel where there's nothing below me. I love doing those kinds of dives. I enjoy those a lot. But you can see some things, and sometimes you're caught off guard by them. More than once, I've been on a dive. Oh, Vala's coming over and wants up, but I don't have any room. I can let you up on here. Here. Excuse me while I try to pick up my dog. Well, she's going to back away. You could be cruising. It's happened before. Now she's going to try to come up here. All right. So there is no room. Say hi to everybody. Just don't bark in the microphone, please. All right. I'm going to give you this chair. There you go. Sit down there. Oops. Give my cord back. Sorry about that, folks. When you have fur kids that insist on being in the studio. So anyway, sit down. Just lay down. There you go. Good girl. So it's just so funny. Let's switch to the full shot camera so you can see her. She's so funny. So anyway, you can be cruising along the wall and suddenly be come upon by a large school of white bass, and they hang together so tightly, and there's just so many of them typically in a school. It can be really disconcerting because it's kind of like they just are moving past you in waves. And sometimes they'll turn around and come back the other way, so you're not sure what they're going to do. So you're suddenly around it. Unfortunately, I've never caught that on video, but it's happened to me a number of times. It's just kind of cool to just hang there and just let them pass by you. You watching me. But also, when you're in like Scuba Cove, not a lot there. It's why I tell people, you're not supposed to fish there. Ooh, wow. You're not supposed to fish there, and I tell people that I catch fishing there. A, you're not supposed to be fishing here. B, there's nothing to catch, generally speaking. You'll find some small perch hanging in the shallows around 15 feet or short or shallower, and you might find carp, one off here, one or two here or there, and a catfish every so often. Rarely will you find bass. If you find the bass, they'll be the smaller ones because the females will come up shallower, make a nest, and lay their eggs and guard that. But then once they're hatched and old enough to go on their own, they're gone. They don't hang out. So, but every once in a while you get surprised by something. And so I've got some video for those of you who happen to be interested, what you can see there. I got 3 sections of video here that I want to share with you all that were pretty cool. See if I can expand this. Here we go. So this really caught us off guard. I mean, I just normally don't see, I'll see one carp kind of come through and then they see us or hear us and then they bolt. But this was kind of surprising. There we go. I was just like, where are all these coming from? So that's one of them. Then there was this one. See if I can get it started. There we go. We were just nestled here, and they just kept coming around. Visibility obviously was not all that great. It was about 10 feet, maybe 15 feet. But still, this was stinking awesome. And our carp are pretty good size. I mean, these are pretty healthy size carp. Okay, and then last but not least. You see, that's normally what happens when you come across a carp or two. These bolt high speed. I mean, look at all these. Okay, so that's an example of what you can see if you dive frequently enough. I was glad I had my camera at that time. Nowadays I almost always go with the camera because I never know what I'm going to run into. Because I've run into the white bass often enough that it's just like, okay, this would be the one time I didn't bring the camera. So there are things to see there, and like I said, obviously it doesn't compare to diving in the Caribbean. It just doesn't. But if you are serious about diving, you just enjoy the experience, that weightless, three-dimensional movement that you experience on a dive. It's well worth it. It absolutely is well worth it. I cannot tell you how enthusiastic I am about just diving, period. I just wish I could convince more people to be more excited about diving. Now, we do have a dive shop that's being being established in town, and I do have some information on a dive shop in Uvalde, Texas, which I'm going to try and get some more information and maybe get Philip is the guy that's running it. Maybe be able to get him in here for an episode to kind of talk about it. But so it is starting to ramp up around here. We'll see if we can help build the community around that. But it starts with people just being willing to get out there and dive. I mean, there's just, once you get certification, you shouldn't just let it lay fallow for a year or two. You need to dive as frequently as possible so you keep your skills up. You know, you've got here in Del Rio, you've got Lake Amistad and you've got San Felipe Creek that you can go out and dive in. Easy areas to dive, not the greatest, but better than most shallow or freshwater dives, and I enjoy it. I mean, even diving in San Felipe Creek, which is 10 feet maybe at the deepest point. But, it's fun to dive along there too. And it's certainly very easy because you're not going to, if you haven't been diving in a while, it's a good way to kind of reacclimatize yourself because it's 76 degrees year round. The water is at San Felipe Creek. And, I should probably get some video of diving there. You don't have to worry about hurting yourself if you happen to freak out and pop up. Although, obviously I don't encourage that. But if it happens there, you're not likely to experience any side effects from that, decompression sickness or whatever. So, all right. So what we wanted to talk about is warm-ups. Now, it's important, especially as you get older, but certainly if you've not been diving throughout the year, you're probably a little bit out of shape and need to make sure that you get your muscle groups activated, get your body prepared for the challenges of diving. Now, the issue is that different muscle groups are going to be taxed by carrying the heavy gear around, walking up and down. If you're out at Amistad, up and down pretty steep areas. So you're going to be putting your body through a workout just to carry your gear in and out. And then just exiting and entering the water to maintain the kind of control you need to maintain in order to properly enter the water and properly exit the water. You're going to exact a little bit of physical toll on your body. So what we wanted to share with you is just some very, very easy to do common exercises that you can do and why they're important for you. So the first one we have demonstrated here is the calf stretch. Now, as a diver, you're probably familiar with a variation of this in that's what you're taught in the class, where you grab your fin tip and you pull back on it to stretch the calf, and then you reach down and you massage the calf. This is how you get out of cramps out of your calves. Well, you can help head them off at the pass, as they say, by doing some stretches ahead of time. So this is easily done, as you see, with a towel. You simply sit down, sit on a bench if you need to, and just wrap the towel around your foot and then pull back, and you tighten that calf muscle. And this helps reduce your chances of getting cramps during the dive. Easy to do. Easy to do. All right, so the next one. See if I can get it going here. Hello. There we go. All right, so this is called, there's some variations on here. The back scratcher shoulder stretch, and then you've got a slight variation that you can do on the right here. And simply you're pulling your arm up over your back to stretch back like you're going to scratch the middle of the back. Variation you can do that helps to pull on the back muscles is the motion on the right, the example on the right. And what you're doing is trying to stretch those so that you're prepared for reaching overhead, because if you're diving on a boat, you may have to reach up to grab something or to hold yourself in place if the boat's moving, rocking pretty hard. And then certainly this is a common thing you may have to do if you forgot to turn on your tank valve and your buddy is not immediately available. Well, you're going to need to reach behind yourself to turn on the tank valve. So being able to, if you try to do that without having stretched properly, you can get a cramp or pull a muscle just doing that. So to avoid that, you can go through this exercise and stretch out those muscles. Now, another thing that helps, especially for those of us as we get older, we tend to have rotator cuff and other the related muscle groups. We tend to have problems in this area as we get older, and you can help reduce that type of injury by doing a hanging arm circle. And so it's literally this easy. You simply bend over, and while the example here, she's just resting her other hand on her thigh, you could grab hold of like a rail or the side of a boat, something to steady you. And then you simply start moving your arms in a graduating circle, and it rotate, and you do the whole arm. You don't just do it at the elbow, you do the whole arm, and that starts to activate the muscles around the rotator. And so this will help you as far as avoiding a potential injury as part of your dive. All right. Now here is the the trunk twist. You can do this either seated. Now she's sitting on a mat. You could be sitting on a bench. You could be even standing. But the idea again is to stretch the lower back muscles, works your core, helps to again work with issues that happen with the lower back. Especially, this can be especially a challenge, for carrying gear. You're going to be wearing a lot of weight, both in terms of the gear and any lead weight that you're wearing, especially if it's integrated. Now, if you're wearing a weight belt, this doesn't help you with those because you're twisting within where the belt would be. But as far as if you're wearing a weight integrated BC, then obviously your whole body is going to be twisting, carrying that kind of weight. So making sure that your lower back muscles are activated to handle that is kind of important. All right. Wall push-ups. Again, work some of the upper body major muscle groups as well as the arms. Now, there'll be things that you'll need to push up, pull up from as you're entering, exiting the water, especially because you're, again, wearing heavy gear and muscle and lead. So you want to make sure that your body has the muscles properly activated, warmed up. So doing a number of these in repetition to prepare your body for the dive, you're going to help yourself avoid potential cramps and injuries later as well. And then, of course, the ever-popular squats. Again, activates all the major muscles and joints in the lower body. And again, you're going to be wearing a lot of weight climbing up, and climbing down with gear on. So you need to make sure that your body is prepared. And so by doing these properly helps you out to prepare for that. And again, obviously, you can, any age, there's no age limit to any of these exercises. In fact, it's even more important as you get older that you go through these because your body is not as forgiving of the kinds of torture that we put ourselves through in any kind of activity, certainly scuba diving. While scuba diving is certainly a low impact exercise or sport or hobby, it nonetheless does place some challenges on your physical endurance when you're carrying that kind of gear. Even during the dive itself, your heart is having to work to pump fluid and nutrients throughout your body while it's under pressure. So while you're not, the idea is to be moving slow and purposeful and methodical. On a dive, the bottom line is even at your most relaxed, your body is having to pump. Your heart is having to pump through a body that's under growing pressure. The deeper you go, the more pressure your body and your circulatory system is under in order to move things through your body. So you want to make sure that you're prepared for that. Now, this is how do you help yourself get ready for the dive. But as I've mentioned, we're still in our winter time, so we're dealing with cold, or we're dealing with colder water. Like I said, in the 50s. So you're going to be coming out of that dive with a number of challenges to your body. Your core temperature is going to be dropped. You're going to be having put yourself through more of an exertion because your body tries to stay warm. So what you want to do is make sure that you warm up quickly and properly after the dive. So one of the things you want to make sure you have available is some sort of a warm-up jacket. Now, here's just a couple of examples. They come in a number of different you don't have to get one that's specifically for scuba, but you can find some pretty unique features for divers if you go to like leisurepro.com or diverssupply.com or scuba.com even, you'll find a lot of really interesting designs and features specifically tuned for scuba divers. But again, the idea is to help keep you warm or warm you up quickly after a dive. Here's just yet another example. Now what's neat is, some of these come in a sort of neoprene, so they're very good protection if you are on a boat, for instance, where you're still exposed to wet elements. So, and these tend to be more protective. So having something like this available post-dive is kind of it'd be a good idea. Well worth the purchase. So having said that, here's some things that you should think about doing, or how you can prepare yourself or properly handle finishing up a cold water dive if you're diving in the winter like I tend to do. You want to make sure that you have something like this warm-up jacket and have a towel ready to dry you off, because here's the thing. As you know, in the summer when you sweat, the reason why we sweat is so that any breeze that comes across, it hits that sweat on your skin, and that pulls heat away from your body. It helps to dissipate heat from your body. The water acts like a heat sink. In the cold, in the winter, if it's cold outside after a dive, that's actually something you don't want to have happen. And so if you're like me and you don't do dry suit diving, you do strictly wetsuit diving, even in the winter, you come out of a dive, your body is wet. Even after you take off the wetsuit, your body is wet. And so any breeze that hits you, that cold air just feels even colder. That's that dissipation. That is the heat sink effect. That is the breeze taking any heat that's on your body and pulling it from through the water that's on your skin. So you want to make sure you towel off quickly to reduce heat loss because of the water. It's a good idea to, if possible, to have your clothes and towel easily accessible after the dive. Now, depending on how you've been set up, if it's a shore dive, you may not have a lot of opportunity to have that out again. If you have somebody watching your stuff on shore, they can protect your personal belongings, etc. If you have a tent available, that's a good idea too. That way you're inside of it for changing the clothes. Have them out and ready. So the quicker that you can change out of your wetsuit, the better. So I would suggest, if you got your clothes in a bag, unzip it while you still have your wetsuit on. You want to drop your gear, but keep your wetsuit, hood, and gloves on till you're ready to actually change. Because again, even though it's wet, if you're wearing a wetsuit, even though it's wet, it's still some degree of protection from the elements. Because if you try to take that all off without being ready to towel off and get into dry clothes, you're going to your temperature is going to drop even quicker. If you've been spending any time in the water at all, your core temperature is probably already dropped pretty significantly anyway. So you take off the main gear, leave your wetsuit, etc., hood and gloves on till you can access your dry clothes. Then what you want to do is after that is to get to your clothes, take your hood and gloves off, take your wetsuit or dry suit off, boots and everything, and then towel off quickly, and then get quickly into your dry clothes. The more layers, the more you have it layered, the better. Throw t-shirts, regular shirt, throw your have a fleece type jacket or a warm-up jacket, throw that on top. And also make sure you got your head covered too, because you lose a lot of heat through your head, especially if you don't have a lot of hair. So now, once you've gotten yourself dried off and you're in your warm clothes, it doesn't necessarily stop there. If you've noticed during the dive that your fingers and toes are exceptionally cold, you need to warm those up quickly. but you don't want to do it so quickly that it's dangerous to you. So the best way to do that is there are two things you can do. First, you want to swing your leg frontwards and backwards 30 to 50 times. Now, what you're trying to create is centrifugal force as you're swinging that. So swing it as far as you can. Now, what that does is that the centrifugal force starts to increase blood flow towards the extremities, and so that will start to warm up your toes. You don't want to try to warm them up externally, because that creates a physiological problem that can actually cause some damage or certainly be uncomfortable. But if you are getting your heart pumping and swinging your leg frontward and backward about 30 to 50 times, you'll start to increase blood flow to the toes, to the feet. And so that will warm your feet up, your toes up. Similarly, you can do a similar move to what you did with the hanging arm circles. What you can do is simply rotate your arms in a full 360-degree fashion to, again, create the centrifugal force to push blood flow out to your fingertips. And this is why it's a good idea to do the hanging circle arm movement as a warm-up, so that when you do this, it's not a surprise to your body. Okay, so you do these again 30 to 50 times, and you will your fingers and your toes will start to warm up as a result. And those are just a couple of great ideas, great ways to warm your body up. Now, if you have available, if you have a thermos with some sort of a warm liquid, coffee or cocoa or whatever, that's a good idea too. Especially the longer you're down, the more your core temperature drops. And so what you'll want to do is warm up your core. So the best way to do that is to put something warm in you. So if you have a thermos with some sort of a warm liquid, you can start drinking that. Don't drink it too fast, because you can create some problems too. But start drinking that, and that helps warm up your core. Also, typical divers are hungry after a dive. It's just what we experience. And so more often than not, you find divers, as a matter of course, bring some sort of a snack, crackers or bread or oranges or fruit or some type. Depends on what type of dive and where you're at. But we'll bring food along because that we're hungry. Well, that also increases your metabolism because it speeds up to aid the digestive system. So that's another way to start warming up your core, is to actually eat something. So those are just a few of our tips. Looking to see if there's anybody in the chat room that has any questions. Those are just a few of our tips for helping warm up pre-dive and then warm up after a dive if you've been diving in cold water. It's all about keeping healthy. You don't have to be a superb athlete or anything to dive, but you want to make sure you're in pretty decent overall physical health, even though you may not be an Adonis or something like that. But it's always a good idea. All right, let's see. Just a reminder, July 16th is Women's Dive Day. So check patty.com. They will have links to or pointers to a number of places around the world, literally, that will be celebrating and having various events to celebrate Women's Dive Day. So that's July 16th. All right, let's hit a few bits of administrivia here. So, all right, next Rio Dive Club meeting is 21 April at 7 p.m. at Rudy's Restaurant. We're not having one this month because I'm preparing for our big Easter production at our church. So, and one of the rehearsals that I have happens to fall on the day that we normally would have our dive club meeting in this month. So, of course, Easter is this month. So, we'll not have one this month, but next month we will. 21 April at 7 p.m. at Rudy's Restaurant. And in case you've been living under a rock, we do have our dive classes, basic open water dive classes, scheduled for 2016. They are March 26th through the 29th, June 23rd through the 26th, July 28th through the 31st, August 25th through the 28th, and September 22nd through the 25th. And if you want to sign up for those classes, make sure you sign up no later than the first week of the month of the class. That way it affords you enough time for me to order your student materials, to get them to you, and so that you can complete the self-study requirements prior to us getting together on the weekend of the class. So that means that, using May as an example, if you want to take the May class, you need to make sure you sign up no later than the first week of May. Now, Pets Wish is still around. They still need donations. Now, I did see that they have, they're in the process of moving to a new location. I do not know what that new location is, but they are looking for some help as part of that move. You can go to their Facebook page, just look for A Pet's Wish, and you can see information, talk to Katrina about helping out with both money and hands, because it's going to be a pretty monumental task to move everything to the new location. So they can always they can always use your help, especially monetarily. There's a lot of animals that rack up the old vet bills, and of course, just paying for everyday costs of cleaning and food, etc. Critical functions to take care of these poor little ones that have been abused, neglected, and abandoned in the Val Verde County area. And if you would like to, keep in touch with what's going on in the dive world in the Del Rio area, the Southwest Texas area, you can go to our website, delriodiveclub.com, or visit us on our Facebook page. Just look for Del Rio Dive Club. You can also send us messages via Skype. Just look for TGWD. And, of course, if you'd like to send me an email, you can send it to robert.wade@cetifox.net. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, I'm very prolific on Twitter. Tend to be quite political, so I just will warn you that. But you can certainly follow me on Twitter. Just look for Robert CFP. And if you're not obnoxious, I'll follow you back. But that's one of the many ways that you can get in contact with me. So that is all we have this week for our show. Didn't have any questions or comments from the peanut gallery there in the chat room. So without any further ado, we'll sign off, and we will see you next time in another exciting episode of This Guy Who Dives. See ya.